Let's talk about San Diego FC, the new club coming into the league. We saw their expansion draft in that YouTube live stream, which was ridiculous.
It's terrible.
Yeah, actually, I don't have them pulled up. Or actually, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Let's just go through the five that they picked in the expansion draft. We had center mid Jasper Lofelsund from the Rapids joining the team. They signed Hein Gickling Bruseth from Orlando City in the draft, and they signed Hamadi Diop from Charlotte FC in the draft. Any major takeaways from those three that they're keeping?
um, I just feel like they took guys that, like Bruseth, you probably know a little bit more about him. Didn't play a single minute after coming in on like over a million, but it sounds like they didn't pay that full fee, so San Diego is going to finish that up.
Yep.
Um, it's weird because like he didn't play a minute. Diop was on loan out of MLS this season because he was a draft pick, but had to take an international spot up. So I think Charlotte pushed that down, especially with Dean Smith wanting a lot of his guys in. Um, and Loffelson, like, it sounds like they want to use him on the same side of the field as Lozano, he played like central for Colorado, but it sounds like they might try him at left back behind Lozano and kind of like sitting more at home. I don't really feel too much about these. I feel like they took the strategy that a lot of MLS clubs do in the expansion draft, and you just fill out guys that are like under 300K in salary that we don't have a culture yet, so let's get young guys with cheap cheap cap hits, and let's see if we can get anything out of it. So I think that was their strategy here. I don't feel any way about the three. Like obviously, like in my head when I'm drafting, I that's not where I'm going, but I feel like they're like filling out their supplemental slash like bottom quarter of their senior roster with this. They're just getting guys that like Loffelson, like respectable in the league. Diop, they must have saw something they liked, and Giglin Bruseth, like there's a reason why Orlando brought him in on that tag, and they probably also scouted him throughout um, 2024. So they just saw it as an opportunity to maybe put him in a role where he can get on the field quicker than he was going to get that opportunity in Orlando.
Yeah, they're definitely not the flashiest names to pick. And I think the instant reaction was, what were they thinking? We haven't seen this player in the league, so he must be terrible. He signed for 1 million, and he didn't play, like you said, he didn't play a single minute. I know nothing about him, really. Hamadi Diop on loan. He hasn't done great with Charlotte. He hasn't broken through there. What were they thinking there? And then Lawful, he's a solid MLS pro. He's been around the league for a while. He's played a lot of games, so that one's like a fine pick. But they're not flashy. They're not your guys who would have been TAM players who would have come in and been starters. Maybe Lawfulson comes in and starts, but for the most, they're not those higher level players. And to be honest, I do think there was enough unprotected talent out there where I wish San Diego would have taken a swing at somebody and just said, hey, we really like you as a player and we've seen you have success in the league. We're going to take you. And instead, like you said, they kind of went for the normal strategy. I don't know why they never do that. I almost feel like I almost have a conspiracy that players can opt out of being selected even though they're unprotected. Like
Yeah,
there was some good players that still had contracts available. Like my pick was Brugman, for example. His contract is not up this season. It might be up next season, maybe. Just won MLS Cup MVP unprotected. Like I know it's nearsighted, but that's a player who you can go get, and he can be in your midfield. And I don't know why you don't go and get that, other than like he just is too much of a cap hit. So I don't know. That's
yeah.
just my bugbear, I guess.
It sounds like my theory, and then like Tim with MLS now, and he does a lot of great work for Chicago, with Men in Red '97. He was kind of talking about it, and I had this theory as well that like there's kind of like an unwritten rule like across like sporting directors where like I'm not gonna touch your investments to a certain extent. Like they pretty much like call up before the draft and say like, "Hey, we're interested in taking this player. How would you feel about it?" And it sounds like they did that with a couple teams because that's why Columbus and uh, Seattle like traded them international slots for a discount. um, it sounds like they don't want to like get off in the right foot in terms of like negotiating with the rest of the league, so they just kind of go with players that maybe they can take a flyer on and
That
still
makes
keep
sense.
good relationships around the league to start. Because if you take an investment on a player like Brugman who doesn't want to be there, like just won an MLS Cup, like it could like because then you're putting him as like one of your highest paid players, and then you're starting like a really bad locker room environment around for people that don't want to be there that are like some of your biggest investments. So like, maybe we're going to take flyers on guys that didn't see playing time, and maybe they're going to like step through and contribute in the first day. So like I think that's why we see the trend like that. Yeah, but like you said, like someone who's not connected with the league at all, I'm like, you know, I'm gonna take Zonde Silva and like see how it works and like move on from that. But
Right. Yeah.
looking at this roster though, like I like the Andres Reyes move. Like the center back duo of him and Patty McNair will be interesting because Reyes is like a very he likes to play a little bit dangerous sometimes, like little. But McNair like plays back, and they have McVeigh who's going to bring good depth in there. I like what they're doing with the center back unit. I think they got to get another designated player though. They need another attacker because with how the roster looks right now, they're they're closer to the wooden spoon than they are to the playoff line, in my opinion. So like obviously they're building from ground up, but none of what they have gets me excited. But they have plenty of time to do something. Like the window hasn't even opened yet, but um, they got to get at least another DP. Maybe leave that like third one open to see how you've done like through the summer. I know a lot of like early clubs like to do that. But yeah, I like the other two moves they did on draft night. They drafted like Jose Kojima from St. Louis and traded him to DC for like 400K GAM, which I thought was a lot for a player that only played like in half games as a reserve. And then they also traded someone to Toronto, the Thiago Andrade from NYCFC. So I like those. They're just trying to like maximize their investments, their allocation, and they probably put that like right back into the Andres Reyes GAM amount. And yeah, like I think they have a couple solid players. That's another team that they've linked Ariola to because he's a San Diego like born and raised, like just like built like a small sided field like in downtown San Diego. So um yeah, this will be a fun off season to track, and we were both over 5 on our picks, so we wasted time
Yeah.
of content for that.
It was fun. It was fun.
It was
Yeah.
fun.
So yeah, it will be interesting to see how San Diego fares this season. Like you said, a lot of time left for them to build out their roster, but really interested to see what direction they go for the next few weeks. They have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to
A
do.
lot.